ready for the Let us now settle into a spirit of worship with a moment of quiet to be followed by the music of Arvo Part. You are also invited at this time to light a silent candle of joy or sorrow.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. My name is Maura Rouse. I'm one of your worship associates this morning, and we begin by acknowledging that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people, who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc tribe. We offer a special welcome today to newcomers in person and online. We're delighted that you're here. For online participants, please put your name in your video feed for everyone's safety and comfort. Please take a moment to sign one of the attendance clipboards starting to circulate here. Though you're not obligated to sign in, we do appreciate your information and we'll use it only for church purposes. Following today's reflection, we have an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow in a special way today, as will be announced by our host, Matthew Johnson, when the time comes around. If you have a name of a person you want to acknowledge today and you'd rather not say it aloud, you can put it on an index card in the offertory plate when that comes around. In the foyer, in case you had not seen or heard about them, we have listening devices, we have large print service programs and hymnals for those of you who might find their use beneficial. I invite you to turn your technologies to worship mode. This is your time. Finally, please note the announcements on the back of your program. I'm so glad you've come today and hope to enjoy this opportunity for all of us to share in rest, reflection, and rejuvenation. Opening words will be provided today.
It's green. Okay. So you heard that. You don't need to be big to be powerful. You just need to be infectious. Generosity is a contagion that could actually transform the world for the better. Generosity's infectious potential comes from two key drivers: human nature and the connectedness of the modern era. I've come to see generosity as central to everything that matters. And because we're living in an age where one person's generosity has the potential to infect others without limit, there's a whole new reason to spread this idea far and wide. Today, more than ever, the decision to be generous can be simultaneously an act of sacrifice and profoundly an act in the long-term self-interest of the giver. People who are generous will come to enjoy the deepest happiness. We'll hear more from this book as we go along.
As the choir comes forward for our hymn, I invite you to stand as you are willing and able to join in singing a traditional Shaker hymn called More Love.
And I will give you a hint at how it sounds. We'll go through the first part once, and essentially we go through the first part and we repeat that first part, and then we go to the second part. If you love not each other, and we repeat that, and then we come back again one more time. So it's like an ABA kind of thing.
time, is this one on, Frank? At this time, I would like to call our basket bearers forward. Each week, these participants in our religious education program collect change to contribute to the emergency fund of this congregation. If you would like to contribute change this morning, please raise your hand and one of our basket bearers will find you. The emergency fund of this congregation provides necessities for family members of this congregation and our larger community during times of crisis and transition.
As we prepare to sing 5 Hebrew love songs, we will sing the first 3, and then we'll do the reflection and other stuff, and then we'll come back to the last ones. And they are in Hebrew, so a few of you may know Hebrew, a few of you may not, but the meaning of the words is included in the program. Actually, let's welcome Jagannath Khalsa on violin. can you reclaim that for me and put that in the center? Thank you so very much. And the stand too, please. So the second reading from this book, again, it's called Infectious Generosity, the Ultimate Idea Worth Spreading. I've shared a tiny bit from the introduction. I want to share a couple of pieces of this. There are three kind of theses. There are three specific features of our connected era that we take for granted. But when you look at them with fresh eyes, put them together, they create a whole new, highly compelling logic for what we should hold on to and what we may be given away. First, what we value is increasingly non-material. For most of history, gifts involved the transfer of atoms and molecules from one human to another. Food, flowers, tools, clothes, collectible objects. But in the past decades, we've seen a giant shift. More and more value in the world today comes not from the tangible, but the intangible. Not atoms, but bits. Not physical stuff, but unique creations of human minds. If how we spend our time is a key measure of what we value, then what we value is increasingly intangible. The second point, non-material things can be given away at an almost limitless scale. Before the online video, if you wanted to share an inspirational lecture with a large number of people, your best bet was to burn copies of a bunch of DVDs and mail them out. It would cost $2 or more per recipient. Today, the incremental cost of giving someone the same lecture is perhaps 1/10,000th of that. It's a tiny sliver of bandwidth. Essentially, it's free and instantaneous. And the same applies to all digital goods: books, films, software, music, educational courses, blueprints, profoundly original ideas, heartwarming stories, every type of intellectual property or knowledge, all can be offered to the world effectively at zero distribution costs. If you can shape a gift into digital form, the internet makes it ridiculously easy to give away an unlimited number of recipients. This news is decades old, but still it blows my mind. Once upon a time, someone who spent several months creating something special could share it with only a few people. Now we pass that same creation to people across the world. This means our collective potential for generosity has increased not just by 10% or 50%, but by orders of magnitude. It's not merely an improvement, it's a transformation. The third aspect is this: that everyone is watching. Reputation has always been a crucial currency for humans. Much of our effectiveness and much of our happiness depend on what others think of us. Reputation has always been the secret enforcer of behavior. In small communities of our ancestors, no one could afford to earn a reputation for being greedy or untrustworthy. That would quickly result in social isolation and a short, sad life. So my takeaway, we've entered into an era in which increasingly our mantra should be: act as though Everyone is watching. So the new logic of generosity, let's put these three things together. Non-material things playing an ever more important role in our lives. It's important to give them away on an unlimited scale, and everyone is watching, which means giving offers unlimited impact on the biggest currency of our age, reputation. This combination makes it clear why individuals and organizations may want to dial up the role generosity could play in their future. Together, these principles create both opportunity and obligation for us modern connected souls to think about generosity in a whole new way. We don't have to think of generosity as simply a noble act. We can start thinking of it as an essential strategy. So that's an introduction to what I'm talking about today. And I will begin by saying that I was excited enough when I got this book a year ago to schedule a service to share the thrust of this book almost exactly a year ago. And somehow that didn't work. But today I'm even more excited to provide a taste of what is in this powerful and provocative book. You've heard bits of this thesis already. Generosity can be infectious under the right circumstances. Non-material things play an increasingly important role in our lives. It's possible to give away on an unlimited scale, and that everyone is watching, because we are, because of social media, in what we might consider an infinite village. We're connected with the people around us, but we're also connected with people on the other side of the world. And he shares stories of this by organizations and by individuals. Chris Anderson was the leader of TED Talks. Some of you might have heard of that. When he started in with TED Talks, it was essentially a conference for 600 people. And so if you were wealthy enough and if you were invited, you could go to this conference. And they recorded what went on at the conference, and they put an enormous amount of work into getting these talks, to having interesting and just inspiring and elevating talks, but only 600 people. And they had videotaped them, and the question was, well, what are we going to do with these videotapes? And some people were arguing, well, we put them behind a firewall, or so that there's a cost, so that when people look at them, we can get some money out of it. And Anderson says, they said they just wouldn't do that they would, let's simply share them. Let's put them online. There's a capability now that we can just put them online and see what happens. So what happened? In a matter of days, 500,000 people were watching their videos from across the world. And each time they did TED Talks, more and more people would come on and look at them and comment on them, and it was clear that it was having a remarkable effect. So the TED brand jumped from being just this little tiny thing to something rather extraordinary, where billions of people knew about them, and billions of people would watch some of these things. And when people asked, oh, is there any way we could do this in our community? Instead of saying, oh yeah, we'll license that for a certain amount of money, they said, here's how to do it. Go and do it. No money to be passed along at all. So there was no licensing agreement at all. They shared the framework, and TEDx was born. And TEDx has had a life so that many, many different cities have had their own TED Talks, if you will, and recorded them and shared them on the TED space. And there's kind of an infinite ripple. A talk from 20 years ago by Sir Ken Robinson about the importance of education still gets, this is 20 years ago, it still gets 5,000 views a day. But the inspiration also goes on. 5 years ago, two women from India saw this particular thing, and they said, the kids and the young people in India need this kind of thing. So they started their own thing, directly inspired by what Robinson had said 20 years ago. And at present, 50 million people are engaged with something called the Josh Talks in India, which are done in 10 different languages. So it's kind of amazing how, an idea, starts and grows. It really is kind of infectious. He tells the story of an anonymous couple that wanted to carry out an experiment. This couple wanted to give away $2 million to strangers. And they wanted to give it away $10,000 at a time. The idea was that they could spend it however they wanted. They could spend it on themselves or give it away or could do whatever they wanted with it. It had to be spent in 3 months, and they had to report what they spent it on. And there was a little bit of a twist in that half were asked not to share with anybody that they had gotten this money, and half were asked to share what they got, and when they spent some of the money, what they spent it on. The individuals were from Indonesia, Brazil, the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, and Kenya. And some of the money got spent for things that the people needed themselves. About a third of it got spent on themselves. But 2/3 were spent on others. And they concluded that when people who are recipients of someone else's generosity, they respond in kind. And there was enormous good. These two individuals, they got joy out of sharing with the people that they shared, but the happiness angle, the couple's donation, created a 200 times multiple in the amount of happiness that they could have gotten from simply sharing it themselves. I want to share what they said. Some of the results. 200 people received a gift they'll remember for the rest of their lives. More than 1,000 other individuals received benefits as a result of pay-it-forward gifts from the 200 recipients. More than 500 organizations all around the world received donations. More than 1 million people on social media got exposure to stories of generosity shared with their hashtag. 2 scientific papers were published. And happiness, a great deal of happiness. According to the paper, a 200-fold multiplier of happiness the couple themselves could receive from money. In reality, they confided that far from taking away from their own happiness, the experiences gave them joy too. And he says, and this book came from that. The book tells us of the key thesis point is that generosity makes us happy. And if we can find ways of being generous and to amplify generosity, to be generous and to amplify generosity and positivity, this will make a difference not only for us, but for others. It'll make us happier, but it'll also affect others. He says modeling generous behavior is hard to do, but not impossible. Ideas that he had: actively look for stories of human kindness among those around you and share them online and encourage others to do the same. Amplify inspiration, possibilities, and solutions instead of snark and disdain. We have much too much snark and disdain, I think. Take the time to thank those who've done something you've appreciated. Celebrate those who are being creative or courageous. Stand up for those who could use moral support. When someone is mean to you online, respond with grace. Create something that's meaningful to you: writing, photography, art, software, music, poetry, video, and give it away. You may be amazed at the response. There's many other suggestions here. He also says if we can join forces, that this is helpful. If enough of us bring our generous selves into the internet, it's possible to imagine a gradual shift in social norms online. When cynicism and aggression are the norm, it's almost embarrassing to be kind. But as more people consciously and courageously model a generous mindset, so a generous mindset, nastiness will become the outlier, a recipe for being ignored, not celebrated. There's lots and lots that's in this book, and I would recommend it. It's not a hard read. One of the things that he talks about is that the kinds of things that inspire people, like really inspire people, are audacious projects. And he suggests that people not look to, start something that is like you'll make a tiny change, but something that will transform the world in some way. We can think of some of those. Getting rid of poverty. Getting rid of prejudice. There's a lot of things that we can think of that if we can figure out a way to make it interesting, it can make a big difference. But it could just be a simple thing that is transformative. At the end of the book, he ends it with talking about what he calls a kindness pandemic. And I want to read a couple of pages of the book because I think it's worth reading and worth bringing us back to 5 years ago, just about today. Actually, in a few days, 5 years ago is when COVID struck us, if you will. He says in March 2020, Australia went into lockdown. Stories of death, chaos, and grocery hoarding filled the media. The anti-ageism campaigner, Catherine Barrett, knew that there were stories not being told. Everyone felt on the edge of tears, but lots of people were trying to do something about it. One day, one of her neighbors put a box of tissues on the communal table in her building with just a simple note: please take if needed. Catherine was deeply touched by the act because it showed someone acknowledging that everyone was hurting. And then she had an idea. She created a new group on Facebook called The Kindness Pandemic, and pictured the box of tissues and the neighbor's note. She wrote, "Such a simple gesture that means such a lot. I'm setting up this group to spread kindness, and I also hope the group helps to restore our faith in each other." She invited people to practice loud kindness, sharing their stories and those of others. The Facebook group grew so quickly that it crashed. People were tired of the division, tired of the hatred. They were tired of the lack of compassion. Across all of the comments, people were saying, "This is what we need." The group quickly grew to more than 5,000 people, with members from all over the world telling stories of kind acts they had witnessed or done themselves, week after week. Determined to spread the kindness pandemic still further, she did something audacious. She created a simple framework to allow others to take on the kindness pandemic brand for themselves, so that local groups could be established and coordinate with each other. Before long, more than 70 local kindness pandemic Facebook groups were not only spreading stories of kindness, but also directing members to local services and resources. And for visitors to all these pages, a heartwarming mosaic emerged of thousands of local and global random acts of kindness. And he mentions a few, and I'll read just one from a person named Ginger Rogers. I don't think it's that Ginger Rogers, but these flowers were given to me today by a young boy as I walked past this house. He was playing in the garden, saw me, asked me to wait, picked these for me, and put them in my hand. A completely random act of kindness that meant more to me than the little boy could ever know. Another group member: my dad's funeral was held today in Wales, 1,700 kilometers away, and I could not be there. The vicar encouraged the family to get my words for my dad recorded and played them in my voice during the ceremony. A complete stranger, Katie, a young woman I have never met, streamed every moment of the funeral live, from leaving home, the service, the eulogies, walking behind the coffin, to the cemetery and burial in a rural Welsh village, so that I could be there all the way from Australia. I cannot express how much all these kindnesses are helping me get through my grief. This is how he ends. How many more kindness pandemics might there be in an era where every human is connected to every other human? There truly is no limit. By becoming a net giver, we don't just alter our own lives, balance sheets. We inspire others to be generous too. We humans need not sleepwalk through our lives. Unlike other species, we have the ability to step back, reflect, imagine, and make determined decisions, individually and collectively. We're all co-authors of the future, and the story we write together may yet surprise us. May it be so. Amen and blessed be.
She works with One Worcester, and as a member myself of many nonprofit organizations over the last few decades, I can just say One Worcester is amazing. So, Helen, I forgot to ask how to pronounce your last name. Siegel. I like that.
Hello. Well, thank you all so much for having me here today. As mentioned, my name's Helen Siegel, and I'm the Executive Director of One Worcester, the Organization for Nonprofit Excellence. If you're not familiar with that name, you might know us under a different name, which is Jericho Road Project. And One Worcester was actually created in 2003 by some members of the Universal Unitarian Church out in Concord, Massachusetts. So you're all very close to our hearts. We've been supported by you for many years. And a few years after its creation in 2003, 3 subsequent groups were then given some funding in Lowell, Lawrence, and Worcester. And we were lucky enough to be one of those groups. In 2009, we changed our name to One Worcester, the Organization for Nonprofit Excellence, and have been operating under that name ever since. And as I mentioned, One Worcester's focus is on providing pro bono business and DEI consulting to other local nonprofits. So we do this through expert volunteers that are consultants in various fields like board governance, development, strategic planning, fundraising, and grant writing. And we're able to do this work through their volunteer hours, which we're so grateful for. In addition, in the past few years, we've also been providing monthly seminars and webinars, so educational programming on these various topics as well to help support even more local organizations. If anyone out there is a member of a nonprofit, either a board member or works for one, please know about our services and feel free to reach out at any point in time. I will be sure to leave a little bit of information on the back table if that's okay after services today. And if anyone in the community is looking to volunteer as well, we are always looking to take on new volunteers at One Worcester so that we can help more people. So if you have a niche skill set that you'd like to contribute to the local community, feel free to reach out. Like I said, I'll be leaving some information in the back. And thank you all so much for your continued support of One. We are so grateful to have you all in this community. And thank you for having me today.
So One Worcester will be the recipient of our 50/50 collection today. I invite the offertory to begin in a few minutes. If you are writing a check specifically to One Worcester, go right ahead. If you're writing a check to UUCW and it's intended to fulfill your pledge payment to the church, write pledge in the memos section. And you can use envelopes if you want to give separately to One Worcester and the UU Church of Worcester. Our offertory will now be received.
Good morning. So before Pauline comes up and does her testimonial, I just want to point out that we're rising up the broom there. So thank you very much to folks who have contributed pledges in the last week. There's been a lot of new pledges, which we really appreciate, a lot of increased pledges. And so our average pledge, our total number of pledges is 32 so far. So we're still staying above $3,300 for our average pledge, which is great. Please keep them coming. And I'll turn it over to Pauline.
I grew up in a French-Canadian environment that had not yet shed its ties with some old European Christian customs. So growing up, we Québécois and New England Franco-Catholics believed in indulgences, words one could say or activities one could perform to lessen one's time in purgatory. As the priest raised the large host with both hands and we said to ourselves, "My Lord and my God," for example, we could alleviate our time in purgatory. Indulgences and lessened time in purgatory were one of the most important reasons for European crusaders in the 11th and 12th centuries to go off to Jerusalem to wrest that city from the hands of the Turks. We were expected to attend Vespers also, participating in Gregorian chant by age 9. I say these things so that you understand the atmosphere of growing up in such an environment of indoctrination. To this day, I thoroughly enjoy listening to Gregorian chant, but it could have gone the other way. As for indulgences, I guess the French did not believe Martin Luther, did not believe that these indulgences were a way, many times, of pulling in money from superstitious and ignorant believers. By the way, according to the powers that be in Rome, purgatory doesn't exist anymore. I am sure that these practices did not occur in every Catholic church during the 40s and 50s, but they occurred in mine, and I didn't know any better. After high school, I spent 5 years as a nun in a French-Canadian teaching community. It took me a long time to release myself from the shackles of the religion of my youth. In 1963, I earned my way out of the French Catholic neighborhood with an NDEA fellowship, that's National Defense Education Act fellowship, to the University of Kansas. 8 women graduates, including me, occupied the old Victorian house called the Faculty Women's Club and its annex. Until that September, I had never met anyone from Hamburg or Barcelona or Madrid or Bavaria or even Pennsylvania, Illinois, Wisconsin, or Kansas. The two retired K women mathematicians, KU, Kansas University, women mathematicians who owned the club, and some other older women from many disciplines also ate at the club. A hired cook fed us all, and physically round-table discussions were always varied and intelligent. All of these people hailed from ethnic backgrounds different from my own and taught or studied in various departments. There was so much for me to take in. What a gift! I had a little world in my house and a much larger one on campus. My own parochial reservations slowly slipped away all by themselves. I had earned a master's in my first year in French language and literature and was granted a direct exchange fellowship to Strasbourg, France. The French family of the exchange student to KU invited me to live with them. What an opportunity! I'm pretty sure they were non-practicing Catholics, which I was also becoming. I was learning that one's religion, or lack thereof, was not of much importance. The couple enjoyed my knowledge of French and my Franco-American screw-ups, owing to some medieval vocabulary either no longer in use in France or having a very different meaning in modern French. I enjoyed and admired their love of life and more relaxed way of living it. Once in a while, their youngest son, Jacques, would return home from the engineering college founded by Napoleon. He would come home in uniform. His two best friends would visit him, and once in a while they dragged me along, and we visited Germany across the Rhine, which separated Strasbourg from Germany. Jacques' parents took me somewhere different almost every Sunday so that I could learn about life in an area that had been German and was saved by Charles de Gaulle during World War II. There was so much learning going on in my brain. By the time I returned stateside, I had changed. A few negative experiences during my time at KU's Catholic Newman Club and the friendships I had made in Kansas and in France made me understand that people are people, kindness is kindness, respect is respect, and generosity is generosity. And these define who I would like to be, generous, kind, and so forth. During my summers at KU, I always found an interesting job. For 2 consecutive summers, I taught French for the Peace Corps to college kids who had graduated and wanted to begin their young adult lives working in the Peace Corps. These kids were all going to Francophone Africa. Some of their teachers, my colleagues, were Black Americans and Francophone Africans from Morocco, Algeria, the Ivory Coast, the Senegal, Dahomey, Niger, Gabon, the Republic of the Congo, Chad, and the Cameroon. I'm sure I have forgotten some. What a panoply during celebrations of beautiful Black people in their bright flowing robes. They were cool looking, both figuratively and physically, in the heat of the Virgin Islands where we were stationed. So once again, I got to know many different types of people from faraway places who spoke tribal languages sometimes and grew up in different religions. In all of these experiences, one could understand kindness. It needed no explanation. No explanation needed for respect or generosity either. By the time I took on full-time teaching work, family, I was then the oldest of 9 children, and friends occupied my time, and I never gave religion much thought. So I had gone from a nun, N-U-N, to a nun, N-O-N-E. But I learned to play the flute early on in Worcester and was asked by a music group to join them as their flautist. They were Catholic and played at a Catholic church. I accepted because I knew some of their music and could play without ever having to mouth any prayers. Besides, I found that playing music in a group was therapeutic. But something was still missing in my life: community. 17 years ago, I was somewhere around 69 in those days, I found this unusual church. By this time, I was an atheist. It would never have crossed my mind that there could be a church that was not dogmatic. I never heard of one. But there was this unusual church. It was not dogmatic. It was a covenantal church. The congregants bound together with their pastor by ethical principles. Wow. At that time, I already believed in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, for example, the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and so forth. You know those principles. I wanted to be a member of this group. I no longer tag people by their religion or ethnicity, but prefer to learn from them. I'm always very curious to get to know them and to see from their eyes. Don't get me wrong, I have a long way to go before I can practice all of our principles with nothing but love in my heart. As a matter of fact, I will probably find them very difficult to practice in the next 4 years. But I will work at it, encircled by the sincerely compassionate and exemplary social justice-minded community. Oh, for those listening who don't know about this church, we also have fun with entertainment from our own and from the outside, potlucks, monthly lunches with the minister, and other activities. Just pick your fun. I have decided to add to last year's pledge because I cherish this special church, and I know that things are going to get harder than they already are. I hope it is possible for you to do a bit more for this year's pledge. In any case, there's a place for everyone here, no matter what your circumstances. Give what you can. Community is our name. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So our joys and concerns, because of timing, we're going to do it in a slightly different way. In our hymnal, 501 has kind of a slightly different way of doing it, which will go like this: spirit of community, in which we share and find strength and common purpose. We turn our minds and hearts toward one another, seeking to bring into our circle of concern all who need our love and support, those who are ill, those who are in pain, either in body or spirit, those who are lonely, and those who have been wronged. Here, people may say the names of those to be remembered. So just sit in your seat. You may say it out loud if you wish. For all of those who were brought into our circle, and those who were brought into our circle in our consciousness, may we remember them. We are part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember, to love, and to care. And at this point, I'll ask the choir to come back up. Yeah, if you could. So men first. So this is number 4, What Snow?
איזה שלג, כמו חלומות קטנים, נופלים משנמן.
Please join together in our litany, number 557, in the back part of your gray hymnals, A Common Destiny. All living substance, all substance of energy, being, and purpose are united and share the same destiny.
All people, those we love and those we know not of, are united in the same destiny.
Birth to death, we share this unity with the sun, earth,
Our brothers and sisters and strangers,
flowers of the field, snowflakes, volcanoes, and moonbeams.
birth, life, death, unknown, known, unknown.
Our destiny from unknown to unknown.
May we have faith to accept this mystery and build upon its everlasting truth. Okay. So now we have a bit of a treat, I hope. We're singing a song called More Love. The refrain is what we would like you guys to sing along with. And we're going to sing that refrain first, and then we're going to sing the verses. After each verse comes the refrain. So, here we go.
Thank you.
Our worship has ended, and our service continues first with...
Not quite yet.
As soon as Matt says so, but let me say fellowship hour will be joyous down the hall when we're done.
There's a benediction. The moment that mankind is experiencing now can be seen as either a door or a hole. The decision to fall into the hole or go through the door is yours. If you absorb information 24 hours a day with negative energy, constantly nervous and pessimistic, you will fall into this hole. But if you take the opportunity to look at yourself, use the time to rethink life and death, to care for yourself and others, you are walking through the portal. And from W.E.B. Du Bois, one of my sociological forefathers, I'll say, he says, now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. Amen, and blessed be. And join you down.